Hello, how's everybody doing today? This is Rich Harshaw, Level 10 contractor, and I'm here today with my special guest from Tony Hody Training and Consulting, Megan Beattie. How you doing, Megan?
Good. How are you, Rich?
I'm good. Let me see if I can do a webcam here.
Yeah.
Let's see. All righty.
There we are.
And I am going to, I've got a little bit of an echo, but that's okay because you're going to be doing the presenting. So I'm going to let you just run with it. Today we're going to talk about lead conversions. And Megan, since I've got a bit of an echo, I'm just going to let you let it rip. Go ahead and let it rip.
All right. Sounds good. All right, my friends. Thanks everybody for joining us today. I'm sure there are some familiar faces in the room, and I'm sure there are some new faces that maybe I've not met yet. So for those of you that don't know me, I'll just give you a little background just so you do know, and then we'll get started. I've got a lot to share with you today, and I want to make sure we have time at the end to ask any questions that you might have. So yeah, so Megan Beattie, Tony Hody Training and Consulting. I am a lead generation, call center, sales, marketing, lead generation in general. Anything if it's regarding lead generation, recruiting, or the home improvement industry, that's my baby. I've spent 11 years building the lead generation and some sales processes at a West Michigan company here, All Weather Seal of West Michigan. And so I'm here in Grand Rapids area, Michigan, for those of you that don't know where that is. And I spent 11 years doing that and really learned a lot of things. The great thing, I guess, I built the lead generation from 1.7 million at that company up to just under $10 million with no inbound leads. Okay. I didn't have the privilege of working with Rich, right, at the time. I didn't have the privilege of working with a consultant that knew inbound leads the way that Level 10 and Rich Harshaw know inbound leads. And so I had to build it out of nothing. So I spent all of my time calling old leads out of the database, right? We had a database full of data that was, 5, 7, 10 years old, and we called old leads and we put them on the calendar for our sales team, people that had entered to win a contest for a whole house of windows, right? Or I spent time working shows and events, right? We did over 300 shows and events per year. So 5 to 7 shows a week, every week, all year round. Yes, even in November and December, believe it or not. There are shows then, and banging on doors, spent a lot of time knocking doors, building canvas teams, and also working retail. I had a Walmart program, very aggressive Walmart program where we'd set leads outside of Walmart. So, done all of those things. One of the things that I have found in my travels, right, because now I'm a full-time consultant. I left All Weather Seal in 2021. I've worked with almost 300 multi-million-dollar home improvement companies in our industry in the United States and Canada. And one of the things I found is that we spend a lot of money on leads. And what I have found is we don't always make the most out of the leads that we're spending so much time. We're hiring companies like Level 10, and they do a great job of targeting the right customer that meshes up with our identity and with our company. And then we don't really take our time to prepare the person on the phone to handle those leads as well as they possibly can. And so I really want to talk to you today about supercharging your lead conversions. There's some things we can do in the way we need to think about leads in our business. There's some things we can do to really set up our call center, our people that are fielding our leads for success. Now, if you say, well, I don't have a call center, Megan. Well, if you have people that are answering the phone, you have a call center, whether you like it or not, though. That's who I'm talking about when I say the call center. Okay. So you might have one person, you might have 100 people. Either way, the principles of what we're going to talk about today remain the same. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about that. You'll see my QR code on the screen. Look, I put out a lot of free content on social media. So if you don't get enough fun Megan stuff today, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can go there. I put out a lot of content that'll give you daily tips, and it's all completely relevant to our industry. So feel free to follow me there. Scan that with your phone. I'll show it to you again at the end. If I haven't earned the right to ask you to do that, I hope by the end I will have earned that right. All right. So, hey, without further ado, let's get started here. Why are conversions so important? And, Rich might have an opinion on this industry standard wise. I just have my opinion that comes from my specific clients, but every phone call, every lead form, every inquiry that we get, right, costs our company a certain dollar amount. All right, I'm gonna call it $100. Now it's definitely higher than $100, but I'm gonna use a nice round number and just talk to us a little bit about why these conversions are so important. Now, let's say that call, that lead form, it costs us $100 coming into the company, right? And we are literally handing the call center that $100 bill, right? We're taking that $100 bill that's calling into the office and we're handing it to the call center and we're hoping and praying that we get a return, right? We're praying and hoping that we get a return on that $100. Now, if the call center does not set the lead, right? That $100 gets flushed down the toilet, never to be seen again, all right? It's a huge business waste. And so many times we don't think of it like that. We think, oh, they missed a couple leads. Oh, they mishandled a lead or two. I want you to think about what happens if we set it and what happens if we don't. Now, if we set that lead, if we take that lead that came in and we set that appointment, that $100 goes right back into our company and everybody gets a little piece, right? That $100 has the potential to turn into our NSLI, our net sale per lead issued, which is a statistic in sales in our business that we live and we die by. And so we know that that can turn into $3,000, $4,000. Some companies with higher tickets are going to have a $5,000 or $6,000 NSLI. And so that $100 has the opportunity to turn into $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. On the other hand, if that person that doesn't set the lead for a reason it's not qualified, but that the customer demands a price over the phone, that they ask for something that our product solves their problem, but they're asking for something slightly different than what we do, and we don't know how to pivot, right? That $100 again flushed right down the toilet. The sad part is the owner still paid for that lead, whether we convert it or we don't, right? And Rich, if I was going to ask you to weigh in on this, I mean, what are you seeing? What would you say is a real number? I just used a round number of $100, but what's a real number for what those calls or those lead forms, those high converting leads, what are those running today?
Yeah, I would say $100 would be exceptionally low.
Yes, agreed.
I would say more like 200 would be considered good. 300 would be in range also.
Okay, yeah. So guys, think about it like that. If we're talking $200 to $300 each, right? What are we doing to equip our call center to be able to handle those, right? Because look, I believe you are all born to win, but in order to be a winner, you must have a plan, you must prepare, and you must expect to win, right? I believe in that Zig Ziglar phrase, it doesn't happen by accident. We have to put some effort in to make that happen, right? So plan means we have to have a sense of urgency when we know that these leads are coming in, okay? To prepare, we need to train on processes and scripting to convert at the absolute highest number that we can, okay? We've got to train on what to do and what to say. And we have to equip our team with this, right? It is crazy to me that there are home improvement companies out there. And if you're on the call, I don't want you to feel personally attacked or anything, but I want you to understand it's crazy to me that we will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars per year and then put somebody on the phone with no training and say, we're going to pay this person $15 an hour to set these leads, and we don't equip them with any tools. To me, it's absolute insanity, because I think they're handling an asset that's costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. Seems a little backwards, right? So I want to make sure that we're preparing people with the scripting and the processes, because even botching one lead a day is costing you a massive amount of money. Not only is it costing you that $200 to $300 number that Rich just talked about, but if you do the math on that, let's say it's $300, you do that 5 days a week, guys, you're losing $1,500 a week in leads, not to mention the empty calendar time slots that the sales team should be running. Okay, so when we think about the sales team, if each of those empty calendar slots cost you your NSLI, every time a sales rep doesn't run a lead, it's costing you $3,500. So what about the 2 leads we botched yesterday? One of them could have been on the calendar tomorrow. Okay, so we have to think about that. We have to make sure our people are trained, and then we have to expect. One thing is to plan, one thing is to prepare, but we have to expect. We have to know what to expect for performance, and we have to communicate that to our team. They should know how many appointments setting rate is good performance and how many appointments in a setting rate would be poor performance, because a lot of times we expect them to perform, but we're not forthcoming about our expectation. We have an idea in our mind of what they should be doing, but we never tell them about it, right? So we have to know what to expect for performance, communicate, and hold our team accountable for executing that, right? So what does having a sense of urgency look like, right? Every time I work with a company and I tell them, it's important we get to the lead right away, and they say, oh yeah, we get to it right away. We get to the lead immediately. And you know what I found out? I found out that that's a relative term. It means different things to different people. So what do you mean by you get to the lead right away? Well, the answers I have received have been, oh, we call it the same day it comes in. Oh, okay, their idea of right away and mine is quite different. We get to it within an hour. Again, my idea and their idea is a little different. We call it back in 15 minutes or less. Okay, yep, still not enough. We get back to it in 5 minutes or less. We're getting better, we're getting warmer, we're getting closer, okay? We get to it in 60 seconds or less. Ding, 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 that's where we need to be. I think something that Rich and I probably agree on, at a cellular level is that, we've got to get to the lead as soon as possible because of the way today's consumer expects us to respond, right? Look at the types of businesses that have really excelled in the past 20 years. They're all businesses that have something in common, and that's that they save the customer time. They save the customer time and they save the customer convenience in some capacity, right? So if you look at your Amazon Prime, people can order something today and it's delivered by drone between 2 and 6 p.m. today. You can have it dropped off on your doorstep. It's created a consumerism that is not waiting, right? So I think we miss the boat when we think, oh, if we call it in 15 minutes or an hour, that's good enough. Well, think about it like this. When you're shopping for something online and you submit your name for something, I don't care what it is, or you call someplace and you leave a message, or you get a hold of a company that you're looking to buy something from, if they don't get back to you right away, do you just sit by the phone and wait for them to call you? No, what do? You go on to the next on the Google list. You go on to the next vendor. You go on to the next person that can help you, and you think, well, if they call me, great, but I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. I need an answer now. I'm shopping now, right? So, Rich, would you agree today's consumer is much more wanting that right away?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with the Amazon thing. It's all about now. Amazon has ruined everybody. It's now or not at all.
And I think that's so true, right? And so, I found out that we can say, oh man, this stinks and we have to switch our business model. So we can complain about the way that we would like it to be, or we can adjust to the way it actually is. And in my opinion, the companies that adjust to the way it actually is quickest win. And the companies that fight it and say, well, this isn't the way we're used to, and what about the days when we could just call someone back? Look, it doesn't matter what about those days. We're here today, and we have to adjust to the way it actually is versus complaining about the way we'd like it to be, right? So the first thing we want to do is make our expectations clear with our call center. Telling them call the lead as soon as possible is too broad. As soon as possible to them might be when they're done playing on their phone on Facebook, okay? That might be as soon as possible to them. We need clear communications and clear guidelines that each lead has to be called back within 60 seconds or less, all right? Don't assume the team understands from your lens. They only stand from their lens. If I have learned anything through not only in my job in lead generation, but through selling in the home myself, if I've learned anything, it's that homeowners look at things from their lens, and that lens is made up of the way they were raised, their belief systems, their values. And we look at things from our lens, okay? And those, we always assume the customer looks through our lens, right? They don't. And we always assume that our team looks through our lens. And let me tell you what, they don't. As soon as possible means different things to you than to them. The words old and new mean different things to you than they do to the customer. We have to think about the fact that we only know from our lens, and so we have to tell them very clearly what our expectation is, and that should be 60 seconds or less, okay? Now, the other thing to think about is we have to strike while the iron's hot. We need to get to these leads in 48 hours or less, okay? Studies have shown that cancellation rate skyrockets outside of setting 72 hours. So if today is Wednesday, okay, if I'm getting there any later than Saturday, guys, it's canceling at like 70%, all right? We have to get to these leads right away. Now, here's the next question that always comes up. Somebody's probably like, I'm going to ask Megan this during Q&A. We have too many sales reps. We have too many sales reps, not enough leads. And then I have the opposite problem. We have too many leads, not enough sales reps. If your lead calendar is booked out a week, stop getting new leads, okay? If you've got lead aggregators, turn them off. You don't need them right now. If you are booked out more than 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, I will tell you 100% you are wasting lead costs by continuing to bring in new leads when your calendar is full for 2 weeks, okay? Because we have to have the ability to get to that lead right away, all right? We've got to have the ability to get to it right away. Yes, I know sometimes to get a 2-party, you got to do it on a Saturday. They might be set out a little ways. Sure, guys, there's always going to be an exception to the rule, okay? But for the most part, we've got to be booking like 80 to 85% of our leads in 72 hours or less. And believe it or not, people will set in 72 hours or less if A, it's a priority for them because we made it a priority for them, or B, we use proper scripting and we use the right word tracks to initiate the appointment in the next couple of days. If I say, when's good for you, Mrs. Jones? She's going to tell me 3 Fridays from now or next spring. That is not the answer I want. So I have to have control when I offer the appointment, and I need to position the appointment in 2 different fashions. I want to give them 2 options, both which are favorable to me. Mrs. Jones, we're actually going to have a rep right in your area. We could swing by tomorrow at 6, or we could swing by Thursday at 6. Which time would work best for both you and Mr. Jones, okay? So we need to, first of all, let them know we already have a rep in our area, in their area. And second of all, we need to offer 2 times and ask which one works better, okay? Now, in order to prepare the next piece, we need to train and equip our team. You guys will see a great photo of a book I'm going to write, The Company That Had Massive Success Without Training Professional Appointment Setters and Other Fairy Tales by Megan Beattie. Be looking for it at newsstands near you. I'll probably sell it on Amazon when I do write it. Eventually, I'm going to write that book for real. But what I will tell you is one of the things I noticed is when I was at the Top 500 Live this last year, the big companies, the ones that are selling over $1 billion, the ones that are selling hundreds of millions per year, you know, one of the things they all said was we really focus on that first initial customer interaction with our call center. Just saying, it's not just Megan saying it. It is also the giants in our industry that have built their entire business around that first interaction, right? So we must listen, we must think about this. We have to inspire our team members to care about the process starting in training, right? When we have to have some sort of training process, and we need to inspire them to care about the result and care about the customer during training. This is an inside out job. We can't just hand them a script and say, hey, Megan says this is the best script, read this and you'll have success. That is not what we mean by training and equipping, okay? We have to get dedication to our process when our team understands how important their role is to the success in the entire company. We don't talk enough about how pivotal their role is. We don't talk to them enough about the fact that nothing can move until it's sold. And most of the damn salespeople are not getting the leads themselves. So it's definitely not getting sold if there's no opportunity, right? And we're in charge of setting all those opportunities. And so it's important for us to understand we are the wheels of the economy, and we're the wheels of the economy in the business. The installers don't have jobs if we don't do our jobs. The lady that sweeps the floor at the finance company, she doesn't have a job if we don't do our jobs, okay? The truck drivers that drive our shingles, that drive our windows, that drive our bath products to our warehouse or to the job site, guys, they all depend on us. We should take a great amount of self-esteem in our role in the call center. And you know, we just don't focus on it enough during training. We do not have our people understand how important they are. You're not just answering phones. You are the first voice that our customer is talking to. There is no, because look, when it comes to first impressions, you guys have probably heard the old sayings, but I got to tell you, if the first impression that they get with our company is poor, do you think they're going to set the appointment and say, geez, I hope the salesperson's better? No. It's not going any further. So it's such an important role, and we just don't talk about that enough. Everything in our company begins with lead generation, and all lead generation runs through our call center. So it's really important that we're helping our call center understand how important they are, right? Now, a lot of times I get this during training, Megan, we don't have time to train anybody. We're busy. We got shit to do. We got leads to run. We're business owners. We're busy. We're managers. We're directors. Guys, I get it. I really do. I'm in the midst of this myself, right? My husband and I own a residential fence company. You know, we are right in the middle. We just trained 2 new sales reps. One got his first sale today, by the way, just started running leads this week. So was exciting to see him. My husband went with him this morning and they closed one. So it was awesome. But I'm right in the middle of this, I don't have time to do it scenario as well. But I got to tell you, when it comes to training and equipping our lead generators in our call center, the question I have to ask you is the same question you ask your customers. Okay? If you don't have time to do it right, when will you ever have time to do it over? Okay? Ask you that one more time. If you don't have time to do it right, when will you ever have time to do it over? Don't we say that to our customers? Don't we say, if you don't have the money to do it the right way, when are you going to have time to do the job a second time? If you can't afford it now, what makes you think you're going to afford it now? And then 5 years from now, when we have to come back and do it the right way with inflation because you went with Dale out of jail or Chuck in a truck, right? So we have to remember that it's important. Would you agree with that, Rich?
I've heard of Chuck in a truck, but not Bill out of jail.
Yeah, Dale out of jail. We've also
Dale out of jail.
yeah, we've also got Runoff Randy who runs off with deposits. We've got Cheap Charlie. There's a lot of those guys. But man, so true, right? And you know, the reality is if we don't get them, somebody's gonna. So our call center is also saving them from a bad experience. You know, I think about Let's Make a Deal, right? Like the show Let's Make a Deal. If they go with your company, you guys are pretty confident in the experience they're going to get with your company, right? You know what they're going to get. They're going to get probably a great installation. They're going to get qualified installers. They're not going to get somebody that, you know, went on Facebook today and said, hey, who wants to side a house? I got cash today, right? That is how a lot of our industry hires. I hate to tell you. I saw a guy yesterday. I posted it. It was rough. He said wanted, W-A-N-D-E-D, wanted. I want someone who's familiar with construction, he said. And I just thought it's so sad that this is what our industry has come down to. And why that's important for us to understand is because if we don't get the customer on our calendar, if we don't earn their business the right way, then they're going to go with someone else. Somebody's going to do the project. And a lot of times they end up going, let's just get some other quotes. And they go with somebody cheaper, only to call us in 5 years and say, gosh, we wish we wouldn't have done that. Oh gosh, man, maybe we should have spent a little bit more and not had the headache, right? There's far more horror stories from people that didn't spend enough than people that spent too much.
You need to write that book too.
Oh, that's a good one. Man, I got a whole list of those, Rich. So we got to have a process, right? Here's a couple of main things. If you don't have these things defined in your call center or have process for these things, I would implore you to go and do that like yesterday, right? First of all, you need to know the definition of a lead. What does your company call a qualified lead, right? What does that look like? All right, what is a qualified lead definition, right? Now, I'll show you an example here in a moment. Train and call center processes. You know, how often are we getting to the lead in under 60 seconds? What is our process if they don't answer? How many times are we going to call these people back before we give up on it, right? Are we going to leave a voicemail? Not. Are we going to text an email? Are we going to use AI to do some follow-ups for us on some older leads? We need to know what that looks like. We got to have some sort of process on that. If you've got a good CRM, it should handle most of it for you. We've just got to tell it what to do, okay? Now we need to train on handling the 3 big questions. We get these questions on inbound leads a lot, on warm inbound leads, on the type of leads that level 10 contractor provides for you. We get a lot of people asking, how much, how long, what kind, all right? How much is this gonna cost? What's an average? What's a ballpark? I just need a range. Is it 5 grand or is it 50? How long? That comes in a couple different forms. How long is this gonna take when you come over? How long before you can install? We get that question on both sides of it, especially on the warm inbound leads. These are buying questions, guys. These are not objections. And a lot of times we treat them like objections because we're like, oh, we can't give you a price over the phone. Well, I'm not suggesting you do, but I think there's a better way to tell them that rather than I can't, or we don't have that information in the call center. I just answer the phones. I understand that's the easy way to say it. I would also say that when they come back and say, well, great, have a sales rep call me, here's my phone number, but I'm not going to set anything up, that you just burn the $200 or $300 lead. So we should probably equip our team how to handle those. And then what kind, what brand, right? And the chances of you giving them the exact right answer they're looking for there, slim and none. You know, you'll get a few that have went to your website and maybe already know what you carry, but a lot of people are going to ask that question, and we need to know how to answer that in a way to figure out what they're looking for. If they're looking for a kind or a brand, right? They're trying to solve a problem that exists for them with that brand. We have to make sure that we get an opportunity to show them how our product, whatever that might be, whether it's what they're looking for or not, could solve that same problem, right? And a lot of times we look at these questions like they're objections, and we treat them like they're objections, and they're not. They're actually buying questions. But if we botch them, they become objections pretty quickly, and they end up with, you know, well, let me do some more research. I've never heard of Provia, so let me do some more research and call you back. Versus you saying, oh, what are you looking for? You know, what in that brand do you like? The brand you're looking for, what do you like about it, right? We should be asking people, you know, what are they searching for with this brand? And, you know, it might be because they're trying to avoid that brand. Do you carry? I've had people say, do you carry such and such brand? And I go, no, but we got something just like it. And they go, oh, well, they're way too expensive. I don't want that. We already had them out. I just wanted to make sure. Oh, oops, right? I better figure out why they're asking, right? So we need to teach our team how to handle those requests for information in a way that points us to the appointment, points us to us coming over. We also need to train on, I'm not interested, I can't afford it now, and call me back, okay? These ones we just discussed, these last 2 bullet points here, these are where your conversions are dying on the phone, okay? Not interested, can't afford it now, call me back, okay? Or I'll call you back, even worse, which they won't, by the way. I need to check my schedule. I need to talk to my spouse, okay? Yeah. What they're really saying is, you didn't sell me on why I should set an appointment, so now I want to get off the phone. Call me back. Okay? You call them back. All the time. I get with call centers, Rich, they go, I don't know. These people keep telling me to call them back. I set an appointment to call them back at 2. They never answer. I said, yeah, that's because that was a smoke screen, right? That's the reason they gave you. That's not the real reason. The real reason is they were not 100% sold on the idea of having us come over, and that's because we didn't give them a reason to be. And then we find out that, you know, call me back didn't really mean call me back. It meant I'm now going to avoid your call, and I'm going to save you in my phone so I make sure I never answer again. That is not what we want, okay? Again, $200 to $300 a piece, right down the toilet, right? So we've got to.
What they said is what they meant.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'll keep track of the books.
What they meant. Yeah, that's great. I agree 100%. And man, so many times we already know what they're going to say, right? You just may not know what they actually meant. They say the same thing over and over again. All of these objections that we talk about, not the buying questions, but the objections are all fancy ways of saying I can't afford it. It's always money. It's never not money. And they always say that. Now, when we get out there, it's not actually about the money. They'll say it is, but it's not. It's about the value. It's the perceived value of what they perceive our product to cost. But what I can tell you for sure is that it all boils down to I can't afford it now. Not interested. I'm pretty sure if you called them and offered to give them the project for free, they'd take it. They would. And I know that because I gave away a whole house of windows for free every year for 11 years at All Weather Seal. I actually gave 2 away. One was a random sweepstakes and one was a needy family in the community. And that's 22 houses of free windows that I gave away, Rich. Never once did I call someone and say, hey, we're giving you the free windows. You won the giveaway this year. Never did they say, you know, it's not really a good time. You know, why don't I call you back after I talk to my husband? You know, why don't I call you back in spring and see if I want the free windows? Not once, not never, okay? So we know that it's about the price because, you know, if it was $1, they would do it. And if, I'm not saying it's gonna be $1, but I am saying that at some price between $1 and that the price they think it's going to be, I mean, there's a price in there, they would do it sooner rather than later. So it's always they're trying to put it off. Everyone wants the project now. No one wants to pay for the project now, right? And so we just have to be ready to handle that because that doesn't mean they don't need our stuff. That does not mean they don't need our stuff. It does mean if we call them back in 6 months, they likely got it done with someone else, which I've unfortunately been the victim of that happening to me, mainly because I didn't know how to overcome that objection. And then I called, you know, my business partner now, Tony Hody, and I said, Tony, I'm getting my ass kicked with this and I need help. These customers keep telling me call them back after the first of the year. Some of you on the call, you know, November and December in the call center, it's like, call me back after the first, call me back in spring. Like it's just a nonstop parade of call me back in the future at some point. They act like the holidays are 3 months long. And had a bunch of callbacks. Rich, I said, January 2nd, I'm cleaning up, right? I'm going to come in on January 2nd. The bonuses are stacking up for me. And came in January 2nd, and the best and worst thing happened. The best thing and worst thing in my career. The worst thing was the first lady told me, and it was past customers, which was even worse, shot right through my heart. She said, we already got the project done. And I went, oh, and I was really mad at her, right? I was mad at her because how dare she give someone else the opportunity when she put me off until after the first. And so I was really upset. Then I called the second lady, and same story. And I got a little upset and said, well, I thought you said you were going to give us an opportunity to earn your business. And she said, the best thing, it taught me the best lesson. I've been using it for many years since this time. And she said, I don't know what to tell you. Some kid just knocked on our door and we decided to do it. And I realized I was blaming her, and I really needed to look in the mirror because it was me that didn't overcome that objection. Some kid at the door got told, come back after the first, or give me a card or a brochure, and he overcame it and he won the sale as a result. Megan, on the other hand, stacked up some callbacks which never materialized to anything. So, just want to throw that out there, that if you think those people are going to be there when you call them back, I mean, they may be, but a whole bunch of them aren't. So we got to get while the getting's good. You have to treat every single opportunity on the phone, every time you're talking to these people, like it might be the only one, it might be the last one, because it very well could be. And so this is the only shot you have. So we've got to prepare for it like it's very, very important to us, right? But Megan, everybody knows what a lead is. I would say that if I went around to your company and asked sales, marketing, if I asked call center, if I asked management, I think everyone might give me a different definition because most of us don't have it outlined, right? We need to have the definition of a lead. What's the ingredient to a lead for you, right? I've got an example here. My friend John Anglis, he used to own Carefree Home Pros. He got acquired years ago, but he had these all over the office, which I think was incredibly smart, right? What are the ingredients of a lead, right? They have time. All decision makers are there if you require that. If you don't, then that doesn't need to be on there for you, but you need to decide what it is for your company. And they have a need. They need our product. Now, it doesn't say they have an intention of buying our project in the next 6 months. It says they need it, right? When they buy, when they decide to buy, it has far more to do with the salesman's attitude than it does the customer's initial timeline, okay? And so we have to ask ourselves, for our company, what are the ingredients of a lead? Is everyone clear on this? Where is it posted, okay? It should be in the sales rep's training manual. It should be on the walls in the office. It should be on the walls everywhere, okay? Because this is going to reduce friction between departments, all right? When sales team knows from the beginning that your leads are going to meet this criteria, this is what we promise you, okay? This is what we say a lead is. When they come back and say they couldn't afford it and they try to blame the call center, the reality is if it met the criteria, it's a qualified lead and we expect you to present, okay? It's not your job to decide if they can afford it, that's the bank's job. And if you ran them through credit and they didn't get approved, then that's one thing. But most of the time we say that because the customer said, I can't afford it right now. And we bought that as fact, when the reality is we just didn't come to a comfortable monthly payment. So we have to make sure, right, that this is clear. The expectations and benchmarks from day one will minimize friction in between your departments later. If everyone is clear on this from the minute they walk in the door, you will have much less arguments, right? Now, when we get people that are asking us questions on the phone, I want us to start thinking along the lines of responding with questions. How much does an average window project run? How much is an average deck? How much is an average pergola? How much is a bathroom, a kitchen, whatever it might be, okay? Now, when people ask something like that, we have the tendency to start telling. Well, I can't give you that on the phone. That's not, I mean, we have to come out. Like, don't threaten them with a good time. Oh, we have to come out. Right? Boy, that sounds fun, right? It's the way we position it. And the customer starts going, well, geez, I don't want to put anybody out. I'm not going to buy anything tomorrow, so maybe I should wait and call them back later. We create a great amount of anxiety for the customer by answering that way. So instead, we're going to learn a question today we can ask, and many of my followers that are on the call already use this, but we're going to say, that's a great question. What makes you ask? Okay? Because I need to find out where they're coming from. I can't be giving them answers when I don't know where their motive is behind what they're asking. How much does an average window project run? Well, that's a great question. What makes you ask? I'm only going to get one of two answers from the homeowner. They're going to say, well, I have a budget. I don't want to go above. Or they're going to say, well, before I have you over, I just need to know a range. Guys, they're not actually asking you for a price. They wouldn't know what to do with a price if you gave it to them, okay? What they're asking you is it affordable enough that I want to make time in my schedule to have you come over? That's what they're actually asking you. So we answer this wrong a lot of times by just going, well, it's gonna, well, what makes them ask, right? Now, if they say they have a budget, fine, right? I don't care what the budget is. I don't care if their budget's 12 cents. I have financing. So 12 cents, great down payment. You know, I've got the rest I can figure out when I get there. But
3,000 runs, 12 cents a month.
yeah, 12 cents a month. Yeah. You can feed the children, Rich, for just 12 cents a month, right? And so I think it's really important, though, that we remember, and Rich, you probably have some experience with this too from your background, the customer always believes it should be less than it's going to be. Would you agree initially?
It's not so much that they believe it, it's that they don't know. They
Yes.
legitimately don't know. And so they think it's not very much.
Yes. And or they Google it, right? And they get the average price for if you went to Home Depot, you know, and bought something and, you know, had an unqualified crew install it. So they get a number off Google where they think, well, a bath project should cost $3,500, right? And it's crazy to me that we think that because the customer is uneducated, that means they're not going to buy our product, right? Somebody, well, the customer's budget was $4,000. I said, that has nothing to do with how much it actually costs to do the project, right? They're just not educated yet, right? And I think that's a big miss. We start going, well, the customer's budget was this. It doesn't matter how much they think it should cost. It has to be demonstrated to be appreciated, right? We've got to get out there and show them so they can go, yeah, I mean, there's times where, you know, part of our selling process and the one called close process I use is you'll say, you know, how much did you think this was going to run, right? And they say, well, initially, I mean, we thought like $4,000 or $5,000. Okay, well, now that you learned about, you know, our company, our installation process, how we go above and beyond our warranty and our products, I mean, how much do you think now? And they're like, yeah, a lot more. Absolutely. I'm getting closer to that number I'm actually at, right? Good price conditioning takes care of that in the home. So we can't get too revved up when they start saying they have a budget that they don't want to go above. Well, of course they do. Of course they do. Doesn't mean it's realistic. So we can't get all bent out of shape when they say, well, my budget's this, right? We just need to say, okay, great, I'll make a note and keep going. Okay? We don't have to answer whether we can or we can't. We just need to let them be heard. We need to let them tell us what they think, and we say, great, I'll make a note, and we keep moving. We go to set the appointment. All right. Now, on the other hand, if the customer says, well, you know, we just want to know before we come over. Oh, well, that's easy. It depends on two factors. One is going to be the color, style, and options you choose. The second is going to be the labor. So the level of difficulty associated with installing this in your home specifically, which must be assessed by putting eyes on the project firsthand. So really the best way to get the information you're looking for is to have one of our experts swing out. That sounds a lot better than, well, I don't know, we'd have to come over. We don't have that information in the office, okay? You gotta give them a reason that's factual, that we've gotta be able to put our eyes on the project first, right? How far out are you on installation? That depends. That question is sometimes a yellow flag, sometimes a red flag. A lot of times those people don't own the home, okay? You get people that are trying to hurry up and get something installed. There's a reason behind it. You need to figure out what it is. Sometimes it's a builder that got behind on a timeline and he's calling our office going, well, geez, can I get these guys to do the roof? I mean, I can't get to it. Look, that's not who most of us are targeting. That's not who most of us are dealing with. So instead of just going 6 to 8 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. Oh, that's a great question on installation time. What makes you ask? Well, I've got a time constraint. You know, the house is going on the market on Friday, so we've got to have this done on Thursday. You've given me 3 days? Oh, sweet. Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of companies are available in 3 days, right? Not professional ones usually. And then a lot of times they're going to ask what brand or type, right? They're searching for something or they're trying to avoid something. We need to say, that's a great question. What makes you ask before we give an answer? How long will it take when you come over? Well, they're asking for a couple reasons. Either there's a schedule constraint, either they've been abused by one of your competitors, right? That happens often in our industry, right? Or they're legitimately trying to figure out how much time to pencil in. Oh, that's a great question on timing. What makes you ask? Well, we have little Sally's Ballet recital at 6. You guys are coming out at 5. That should be enough time. Okay. There's also a difference. Yeah, I mean, then we're shot in the foot if we don't have enough time, right? You'll also fish out fake time constraints. Well, you guys got to be out of here by 7. Oh, what's going on at 7? We like to watch Wheel of Fortune. Well, we better be more interesting in Wheel of Fortune. That's all I have to say. Okay? But that way we can figure out why they're asking these questions versus just giving them an answer. Oh, it takes 60 to 90 minutes. You just gave them all of the control. Rather than saying, oh, that's a great question on how long it'll take. What makes you ask? Then they show you their cards. It's better to see their cards than to show them yours, okay? We can tell them 60 to 90 minutes, but let's ask why they're asking first and fish out any time constraints and then share that information with them, right? So the whole point is stop telling and start asking. That's a great question. What makes you ask should be your signature tagline when you're fielding inbound leads, okay? As the old saying goes, when you say things, you're only telling what you already know, okay? When you ask things, you're learning things you have yet to know. We need to know more about the person calling in and their needs, wants, and desires, what their problems are, what we can help them with. By answering the customer's question before you find out why they're asking, you're shutting yourself off from all new information. You have now limited the amount of information you can extract from the customer because you have already given them the answer versus saying, oh, well, let's find out what's making them ask, right? So this is exactly what we do when people ask, what type of blank do you carry, okay? The last thing we need to do is ramble on about all the window talk that they don't even understand, right? Well, we carry such and such brand, and it's rated #1 by Energy Star 3 years running. Consumer Reports says it's the best, and it's the best floor coating in the market, and it's made of this, and we carry the highest quality. And then, guys, the customer is over here. They hear Charlie Brown's mom. They hear wah, 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 wah. That's all they hear. Okay, they don't understand anything that you just said, but they're not going to tell you that. They're just going to go, oh, okay, oh yeah, oh okay, I'll research that. Oh yeah, right. And then they'll say, oh, I was looking for something else though, so I'll just do some more research and I'll give you a call back if we're interested. Thanks, bye.
Yeah, what about just, hey, what are you looking for?
Yeah, that's a great question. What are you looking for, right? Exactly, Rich. The answers are in the questions, right? And we feature dump on people, and I've watched this backfire on us in real life, right? Working a home show, I saw this lady came up and she said, do you carry Pella? And I said, I was standing here with one of my event managers that I've trained. Some of you have heard the story. And Eric started going, no, we don't carry Pella, we carry Preservation. And they've been rated #1 by Energy Star 3 years running. They're national. And I see her just glaze over, guys. Oh, okay, great. Walks away from the booth. Leaves the booth. I start yelling down the aisle, what do you like about Pella? She comes back, she goes, oh, they have blinds in them. Like, oh, great. What are you hoping to accomplish with the blinds? Well, I have a room that's really hot. Okay. So the problem is the room is hot. Do I have an energy efficient window that'll solve the problem? Yes, but I didn't get a chance to tell her about it because Eric already feature dumped on her so much that she ran in the other direction. Okay. So I bring her back to the booth. Oh, okay. What kind of window do you have in there now? Picture window. I really love one of those beautiful bay windows, but the opening's already so big. I'm just nice. Oh, a bay window like this? Oh, that's beautiful. Great. Come on in and have a seat. Husband comes by, I don't want a bay window, too big opening. Damn picture window's bad enough. I said, well, let me ask you a question. I mean, if we carry both, so either way, but let me ask you this. I mean, if I could solve the problem of that room being hot without putting blinds in the window, is it something you guys would consider? I go, yeah. So great. Eric's going to grab some quick information from you. Eric, don't mess it up this time. And then next time we're out in your area, we'd be happy to swing out and get you a price. And those people bought a $12,000 bay window the next morning. And they were leaving the booth because we feature dumped all over them and they didn't understand anything we said anyway. They don't know what any of that means, okay? They will glaze over and start thinking about how they have to go shopping and they need milk and they need eggs and they need to get their kids to baseball practice. And gosh, they wish this person on the phone would shut up so they could get on to their next thing, okay? So let's make sure we don't do that and let's figure out how can we help these people? Oh, what are they looking for? Oh, okay, that brand. What do you like about that brand? They don't ever know. Oh, it's a good window. It's got a good warranty. That's the only answer they ever have. If you get past that, that's all they've got, okay? They don't know. They haven't been educated yet, okay? So we want to say, that's a great question. What makes you ask, right? Well, we heard such and such is the best. We'd really like that. Well, that makes sense. What does he like about it? Well, it's a good window. It's got a good warranty. Well, great. We're not going to lie about what we carry, guys. We're going to be honest and say, well, we could show you something that, you know, solves that problem at the same or lower cost. I mean, is that something you'd at least consider? I didn't say, is there something you'd be interested in? Interested isn't the right phraseology here. It's something you'd at least consider. Maybe they would. Most of the time they go, well, yeah, because they don't care about the vehicle to get them there. They just want the problem solved. In their mind, that brand was the Nike and the Adidas of the whatever industry you're in. The Nike and the Adidas of the window world, the Nike and the Adidas of the roofing world. They're the most well advertised or well known brands. It doesn't mean a different shoe won't get the same thing accomplished, okay? But we have to hear the problem they're trying to solve and the questions they're asking. We have to ask questions back to figure that out, right? Then we do the same thing with the pricing thing, which we already kind of went over here. But again, if we start saying, I can't give you that information on the phone, or worse, you actually give them a range, which is the worst thing you can possibly do. Oh, no, I'll call back if I want to schedule. No, they won't. Rest in peace to your lead cost again. There it is. The whole graveyard full of dead leads, right? We have to give them a reason that makes sense on the phone that says, it's really the labor, it's the level of difficulty associated with installing this in your home specifically. But that's only after we ask the question, what makes you ask, right? What makes you ask about pricing? There's only a couple of answers that come out of that, right? Now, the last piece of the puzzle is expect and the results will come. We need to know what to expect for performance. We need to communicate and hold our team accountable. We need to monitor results, listen to calls, and perform one-on-one coaching sessions. I know, we're busy. We don't have a lot of time to do all this. Call center managers, the number one reason they don't coach is they say, I don't have time. I don't have time, Megan. I'm just too busy with day-to-day operations. I get it. Like, number one, there's some AI softwares out there that can help us with this. I've got a couple I could recommend to you that can cut down our amount of time it takes us to listen to calls and really assess what our team is best at and what they can do better at, right? But then we have to have an honest conversation with our team. We need to have one-on-one coaching sessions every single week, right? We can't just say, oh, when we're doing bad, we're going to talk to Joe about his performance. No, Joe needs to be used to looking at the numbers every week. So it's not a big kick him in the pants when he comes in to talk to you. It's, hey, Joe, this week you did awesome. Man, we converted 80%, 85% of our warm inbound leads coming in. Joe, you killed it. Great work, right? And then there's weeks where we converted 60%. And man, we must have missed the boat somewhere. Let's listen to these calls and talk about what happened here. But if we're looking at the numbers every week, it's definitely a recipe for success. They will care more about their numbers simply because we sit down and look at them together. If we talk to them about their numbers, if we look at them together, they do a better job because they know we're looking. If nobody ever checks on somebody's work, what do you think happens? If an installer was left out in the field, knowing a homeowner would never check on how good he installed the windows, knowing his boss would never come by, what kind of installs would we get? Not very good ones, okay? But yet we do it all the time with the call center. And we have to make sure, right, that we are inspecting what we expect. And we make those benchmarks clear, right? A couple things I wanted to mention, and then we'll open up for Q&A, Rich. Rich and I are doing another webinar. Join us next week. It's going to be awesome on Tuesday, 3:30 to 4:30. Rich is actually going to be talking about his marketing and lead gen plan for remodelers. So I think this is going to be awesome. I'd love for everybody on the call to join us. We're going to have a great session that day as well. And then Rich, and you're going to be there with us, Lead Gen Expo, June 4th and 5th in Cleveland, Ohio. So it's going to be great. If you guys didn't get enough virtual Megan and Rich, you can get in person Megan and Rich first week of June. So don't forget, that's where we'll be. And let me know if I can help. If there's anything I can help you with, we do a lot of different stuff, a lot of call center training, special events training, Canvas training. We do some group boot camps every month too. But if you need any of that, feel free to scan the code. You can email my assistants on here as well as myself, and we'll help you. So yeah. Other than that, that's all I've got.
Yeah, so go ahead and leave that on the screen. I'm going to launch a quick poll before we do the Q&A. Actually, I'll leave it on for about 60 to 90 seconds while you start the Q&A. But the poll is going to ask what kinds of things you might be interested in from Tony Hody. Let me go ahead and put that on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if something is not on there that needs to be on there, I just click one of them and I'm sure they'll be in contact with you probably within 5 seconds if I understand you correctly.
Yeah, most likely.
Okay, let me take on some questions here.
Okay.
Let's
I can give control back to you, Rich.
No, go ahead and keep control. That's fine.
Okay, cool.
But here's the first question. Is there any benefit to trying to be the second person in line versus being there in 3 days or less?
So Is there any benefit? Well, what I would say is, in the words of the great Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last. Okay. So in other words, you being able to arrange the timing on that, the chances of that are slim and none. And I say that because, especially if you're investing in some sort of lead aggregator or lead partner, there's 3 to 5 companies calling them at one time. And if you wait, right, if you decide to wait and you say, well, I'm going to try to be the second, I can tell you there's a lot of them that'll buy before you can even get there. A lot of times the first one in is the last one in. And so I wouldn't say there's any benefit to that. We always want to be first. And our sales team hopefully has that same attitude.
Okay, thank you. Next question. How long should we reach out to a lead and try to get in contact with them before we mark them as dead or lost?
Till they buy or they die. What I mean by that is, for the first 30 days, okay, you should be calling that. If it's, let's talk about 2 different lead types. The warm inbound lead that's branded and coming to you, the leads that level 10 would help you create, the warm website leads, even warm TV and media leads. Those leads, you need to call them twice a day, every day for the first 30 days. Okay, you've got to get in at least 2 calls a day. Now, once we move to day 31, those need to move into more like an older lead queue. And ideally, I'd love to call them twice a day. A lot of times the call centers I talk to don't have the staffing available to make the volume of calls. So we want to be calling those at least once a day if we can as they get older. But once they get over into day 31 and further, we need to get into some more texting and emailing campaigns so we can stay top of mind. That way, when the leads do come up again, because think about it like this: if they have windows, siding, roofing that are bad and they don't do the job, right? If they don't do the job with anyone, they're still sitting there with the same problem. That problem is only getting worse over time. And so what happens is, at one point, the fire will again be lit under them to do it. They'll get up one morning, windows fogged up again, and they go, another damn window's fogged up. I want whoever's been calling them the most is going to be the first person they think of. Okay, so part of the calling the old leads is not just about getting a hold of them. It's being the first person they think of when that problem happens again, and it will happen again on the old leads. Now, on those warm inbound leads, twice a day is enough. Okay, we don't need to be calling them more than twice a day on the warm inbound leads. Lead aggregator are a different bird. You need to get 5 calls into that one on the first day. Why? Because if you don't get them, somebody else is gonna, and they're gonna, a lot of times they buy quickly. Not only do they buy quickly, but once they get 2 or 3 quotes scheduled, they stop answering the phone. Okay, so with lead aggregators, you need to get 5 calls in that first day. The first call needs to be back to back. Okay, and then after we call once and then back to back, if we don't get them, we need to call again in 10 minutes. We need to call again in an hour, and then we need to call again like towards the end of the day. So we got to try to get 5 calls in. Then with lead aggregator, twice a day for the rest of the 30-day period, and then we move them to the old lead campaigns at day 31. Hopefully we can get at least a call in a day on those. If you can call them twice a day, great. But again, studies have shown that when somebody goes online and starts searching for a product and they set up an appointment, if they're seeking us, not a nebulous lead, but they're seeking us, or they're seeking something and they end up on a lead aggregator form, they said windows near me or whatever, those people usually make a purchase in the first 30 days. So the greatest opportunity to get those sent are going to be in that first 30 days. All right, so we've got to go hard for 30 days. A lot of companies don't call enough. They'll call for 6 times and say, they must not need anything. Not necessarily. People just get busy. Sometimes they get busy and they go, they finally answer. They answer on day 13. I've been meaning to call you guys back. Sorry about that. And then, we set the appointment. So I've gotten it on call 87 before, guys. I've called it for 7 years straight and finally they answer. And
yeah, so I would just real quick, I do have a poll on right now.
Yeah.
In any level 10 contractor services you can make indicated on there. Just want to add to that also, this is something that automation can help out with a ton.
Sure.
A product like Structurally that can call, text, email consistently over time can help you out in that regard. Let's go to the next question, okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to close that poll out, get you back on the screen here. All right, we got a few more questions here. What's the most effective way to prioritize and follow up with leads to maximize conversion without overwhelming them?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. So good question. So first of all, I'll tell you this, we miss more jobs because we're not enthusiastic enough, then we miss because we're too enthusiastic, okay? So every customer's idea of what is too many calls is going to be different than another customer's. So we can't really go by what's going to overwhelm them, because this customer might be overwhelmed by 2 calls. This customer might get 200 calls and think nobody ever calls me back. So first of all, we can't do that. But what I would say is that if we call twice a day, if the customer was to say something to us, such as, oh, well, geez, you guys call a lot. And I'd say, oh man, please don't mistake my passion for some sort of pushiness. We just know that you wanted to get some information on Windows. We hadn't heard back from you. So we wanted to make sure we did our part to follow up, okay? So we have to be prepared if that does happen. But what I would say is that if we're calling them twice a day for the first 30 days, that's going to be our best way to get a hold of them. And then we need to use text and email to gently nudge them throughout that process. With text, we usually send, probably 5 texts in the first week, and then we ease off a little bit and we'll send them 1 text a week for the remaining 3 weeks. But what I would say is it's all about our heart. Like, what are we trying to do here? I'm trying to make sure that I can fulfill my commitment to the customer to make sure that I get them the information that they clearly inquired about, right? So we shouldn't look at it as, really overwhelming them. I mean, I have clients that on lead aggregators will call back to back for 30 straight minutes, right? I think that's a little bit overkill. They do have some bad reviews because of it. I would agree that that's probably overkill, but 2 calls a day, I don't think is overkill. And if you're buying lead aggregators, if you want to survive, you've got to do it. You've got to make a lot of calls. So yeah.
And I would add to that, Megan, if you haven't got a hold of somebody in, let's say, 7 days with that kind of aggressive cadence, I'd recommend sending them emails with information relevant to the buying process as part of the ongoing follow-up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, definitely. And we really want, what we want to do, my friends, is we want to really, we want to vary up our content that can go out in those texts and those emails, right? We don't want to just keep texting going, hey, remember us, right? We need to send them something of value. Maybe it's a link to a video that talks about this. Maybe it's, hey, even if you guys change your mind, please keep us in the loop. We're happy to help, even if you want some information for the future, right? We need to vary up what we're saying and how we're presenting it. Rich is right. If we send them, some information, right, they may say, oh, this doesn't look too bad. And then they decide to set. So I do agree that we need to vary up some of that content we're sending out if they're not answering.
Yeah. And just one last thing to add, I would way rather piss off a few people by being too aggressive than not get a hold of people that I could have if I would have been a little more aggressive.
Agreed. Yeah, it's very rare that I work with a company and go, wow, they call way too much. I think it's happened 1 time in 5 years.
Okay. We've got like 4 or 5 more questions, so let's get to those, okay?
Let's do it.
Let's say that is a variation of the same question we just had. Here's one. Any guidance for a sales team that always come back with the excuse, quote, they have to get other bids and they won't make a decision on the first visit, especially with home show leads when we're the first one out. The homeowners always say they have to get other bids from other folks that they met at the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and that's with the competitive lead, right? We're going to get that. The first thing I will tell you is if you have any sort of one call close trainer, they have objection handling for this in the close that we should be using. If you don't, I can point you in the right direction. What I personally use for my company is I have Chuck Tokey's pivot point cards, and it's a deck of flashcards that gives you those same objections for your sales team to practice with. So what we say when we get somebody who says to us, hey, we really got to get 3 bids, you're the first we've had out, we're getting 5 fence bids, et cetera, for my company, we say, oh, okay, let me ask you how long you think it'll take you to get these quotes? And they're going to say, well, probably another week. Oh, a week, that's soon. Okay, you folks are really serious. Let me ask you a question. When you get those quotes and you lay them all side by side, okay, what do you think will be the things you use to make your final decision? Like, what are the criteria you're going to use to make your final decision? Okay. And then they're going to give you the runaround and say, well, the insurance, and then they're going to say price. Okay. Ultimately, that is a fancy way of saying price. Well, Megan, some people really got to get other estimates. I get it, right? I've had customers shut me down with that in the close, and there's some I haven't overcome. There's a whole lot I have overcome. A lot of companies have apples to apples guarantee or lowest price assurance too, because sometimes we say to the customer, it's not that you can't make a decision, it's the fear that you might not be making the right one. And they're going to say, well, yeah, that is the case sometimes. Okay, well, let me tell you about what we offer for people like you. We found out that you're not going to be able to find the same quality product for a lower price. Now, if you do, we'll match it and give you $100 for your time, whatever. Now, obviously, it has to be apples to apples. It can't be, Chuck in a truck versus our high quality company with a showroom insurance licensing, et cetera. So it has to be apples to apples. But a lot of companies use that lowest price assurance. The other thing is that every sales rep will say that unless they're given the tools to overcome it. So I think those flashcards are a great way. We talk about how to get them past it with the flashcards, very similar to what I just said. If I can bring it back to price, right, I can do something with the price because I normally have a drop. If they're just telling me it's other estimates, that's a tougher one to get past. So I have to turn that in, and I have to bring that back to price every time. If I'm able to do that, I can usually close them. But you're going to have a certain amount that's the case. We're not going to close 100%. But on home show leads, we should still be able to close 30% of those, even the ones that are saying that. So,
You ever heard of something called Dare to Compare, Megan?
Yeah. Yes.
For those of you who don't know, I'm joking because it comes from Tony Hody.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. And
Yeah,
we've
so
also
who else are you going to look at? Let's take a look at the reviews right now.
Yeah, that's another great tool. We also have Consumer Price Guide, Rich, as you know, where we actually have shopped a lot of the competition, and we've got a whole guide that has a lot of your competitors' prices in them already. And so that's something we offer at Tony Hody Consulting. If you come to Lead Gen Expo, we can show you what that looks like. But super cool closing tool in the house. Well, you wanted 3 other quotes? I got them right here for you. Let's go ahead and do the math. All right, great.
Let's go to the last question here.
Okay.
How long do you train a new hire in the call center, and how long before you know if they're going to make it or not? What's your process for hiring new reps and phasing out ones that underperform?
Absolutely, that's a great one. So training process in the call center to get them up and going in a regular inbound call center where maybe they're making some outbound calls, we're training them on basic objection handlings, should take us about a week, right? We should have about 6 hours a day of training on scripting, the whys behind what we're saying, and then a couple days on objection handling will get us to about 5 days of training. We then let them test by role playing with us, making sure that they sound like they are competent enough to handle a lead. And we get them on the phone on Monday. So that first week, we spend all training them the entire week, get them on the phone on Monday. We give them that first 30 days on the phone to get up to speed. Okay, so we give them that 30 days to work out the kinks, learn how to overcome the objections, learn how to turn some yeses into nos, and we really monitor them during that time and provide them with a lot of coaching. At day 30 days that they've been on the phone, so it's week like 5 that they've been with us, now we start holding them accountable to the benchmarks we think they should be at, right? And so every company should have an accountability process. If they aren't performing up to standard after that 30 days, every 2 weeks, we need to be having a conversation with them. Usually, if you can coach them up, that's best. I don't want to coach them out unless I have to, right? But that accountability process has to eventually say, if this person has been given all the tools, we've given them all the training, they're still not up to speed, and it's been, 6 weeks past their training period, they're probably not going to get it. What I would say is most companies do not equip them with the tools, and then they're upset because they don't hit the numbers. Well, we've got to equip them with the tools in order for them to hit the numbers. So you have to ask yourself as a trainer and a leader, have I done everything I can to help this person get up to speed? And then we have to put in a process that says, at this amount of time, we may have to cut the cord. Most of the time when we start having those accountability meetings, they get it together, or you don't have to fire them, they quit, okay? They either get it together or they go, this isn't for me. It's just not. And that happens. There's no shame in that, right? As long as we're having honest conversations together, right? Underperforming reps, the worst thing you can do for good reps is tolerate a bad one, okay? So what you can't do is let somebody drag down the numbers for months and months and months with no end in sight, and then you're paying all your attention to them. They're the squeaky wheel. They're getting all the oil. Your top producers are over here grinding their butts off day and night, and they're actually paying for the other people to work here. So the worst thing you can do is tolerate a bad one for too long. So.
All right, I that's a wealth. That's a lot of information.
That is. I know.
Appreciate it, Megan. And by the way, that's just the tip of the iceberg of how much Megan actually knows. not to mention the rest of the crew over there, Tony Honey, training and consulting. So appreciate your time today. Based on the response, this was a fantastic response. This was one of the bigger webinars that we've held in the last year or so. Lots of good response on the polls, and no wonder, Megan, you did a great job.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You and your company have a great reputation, so I appreciate you spending some time with us. I look forward to being with you again next week when we do this again in the opposite direction. But thanks so much for today, and until next time, we'll talk to y'all later.
Yes, thanks, Rich.
Bye-bye.
Bye.